Laura knows she's petite, she knows she's small, she knows she's thin. So I might have kind of picked up on some of her insecurities. Her appearance, her hair, her looks, But honestly, the messages weren't really targeted at her.
What's up, you guys, and welcome back. My name's Natasha, and this is Behavior Breakdowns. Today, we are covering Kendra Licari Part 2. Now, if you haven't seen Part 1, go and check that out now. You'll need the context of Kendra's background and the type of person that she is, and some of the body language and behavior that we've seen so far. Just in case you don't feel like watching Part 1, a brief summary is that Kendra Licari is the center of a Netflix documentary where she was catfishing her own daughter from a unknown number. She was using multiple cell phones and using an app to hide her number. She was sending harassing text messages and sexually explicit text messages to both her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend. Kendra was charged with stalking a minor. She served at least 1 year in prison. So in Part 1, we went over Kendra's body language and behavior during the initial confrontation when the police came to her home and presented her with the information that they knew she was responsible for sending the text messages. So we watched that body cam footage. We analyzed Kendra's body language and behavior, and today we are looking at Part 2. This is where Kendra is sitting and talking to the documentary crew. So we're going to be breaking apart Kendra's body language and looking for more of those psychopathic tendencies and characteristics that we saw in Part 1.
You guys are gonna think I'm the crazy lady. Oh. It was a very high emotional day in our house. A day of confusion, unknown answers, shock, a day of not even knowing how we move forward to the next day. So it was a hard day, but at the same time, it was an end.
So we have Kendra here starting to retell the emotions attached to the day that it was revealed to her family that she was the one harassing her own daughter. On the word confusion, we have Kendra's cadence change.
A day of confusion,
which is quite quiet and actually has an upward inflection at the end. Now, the word confusion is softened because even Kendra isn't fully aware as to why she was sending those text messages. We're going to hear something of an explanation from her as she struggles to kind of figure out why she might have done what she did. So we hear that softening on the word confusion.
A day of not even knowing how we move forward to the next day.
So we do have an eye block there. Eye blocking is when people are trying to keep out information, or it's something that they don't want to think about, or something they don't want to talk about, a conversation they no longer want to be a part of. We see the eyes start to close. She also uses the words we didn't know how to move forward. She's talking about we, the collective, as a family. And again, we have no admission of guilt, no wrongdoing on her part, no apologies at all.
Every single one of us makes mistakes. Not a single one of us has lived a perfect life. And realistically, a lot of us have probably broke the law at some point or another and not got caught. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm sure people drove drunk, haven't been caught, right? But again, if you get caught, you're in the same situation and I'm in, but for a different thing. So I do feel that, people lose sight of that.
This clip is by far the most insidious clip in the entire documentary, and I'm gonna tell you why. In essence, Kendra says everyone makes mistakes, no one is perfect, a lot of us have broke the law, and people drive drunk. This is all severity softening. It is reframing her extreme actions of something of malice to something that is a common error or simply a mistake that was made. This is a woman who is sending thousands of harassing text messages to her daughter. So by putting us all under this umbrella of everyone makes mistakes and a lot of us have broke the law, she is softening the severity of her actions. She is actually deflecting away from that severity and saying that you and I are similar. By grouping everyone together, Kendra is able to avoid accountability because she's saying, you do this too, and we're all in it together. It's a persuasion tactic that decreases resistance towards the malintent of her actions. That is a strategic tactic that psychopaths use. She is actually even able to laugh at the situation, which just shows you how little empathy she has for what she did to her daughter. She says, if you get caught, you're in the same situation I'm in, but for a different reason. That is the grouping of us together with her, reducing the emotional weight of her crime, taking some of that weight off of her own shoulders and spreading it across the group. You and I are not so different. If you got caught, you and I would be there in the same situation.
I know to some, I'm a headline, I'm a villain, I'm a bad mom, I'm a whatever. But that's because they know one little piece of my story. They don't know my whole story.
My co-host is back. So we do have another eye block in this clip, and we also have Kendra saying they don't know my side of the story. And we hear her drop into this almost childlike persona. The voice actually changes slightly. It goes into a higher pitched voice.
They know one little piece of my story. They don't know my whole story.
This is a tactic that some people do to manipulate. It's a way that she might have gotten away with something in the past, or it's a way that she might have deflected some of the punishment or severity of what she's done in the past. And so she drops into that voice here when she says, well, they might judge me for being a bad parent or a villain, but they only know one side of my story. There's more to be told here.
The messages kind of stopped for a little bit and then they picked back up. In my mind, I'm like, how long do we let this go on? What do I do as a parent? Honestly, the best way would have been to stop it by shutting her cell phone down, right? But then I was like, well, why should she have to do that? You know, why should I have to get her a new cell phone? Like, because of someone else's actions, right? I really wanted to get to the bottom of who it was, right? And that's when I started sending the text messages to Lauren and Owen.
I think that there was a bit of a slip there from Kendra because I think we saw a bit of the true self coming out. Why should I have to buy her a new cell phone? This is her daughter that she's talking about that is receiving thousands of harassing text messages a day. I think most parents in this situation would be happy to buy their kids a new cell phone if it meant protecting them and keeping them safe. But we have that slip from Kendra, and the reason I think it's a slip is we see that immediate eye block right after she says that. And she also says for somebody else's actions, not her own actions, somebody else. That is distancing language. That is her reframing the conversation to absolve herself of the guilt attached to her crime. It's not her own actions. It's not the actions that were harassing her own daughter. It's somebody else's actions. Again, this is severity softening and it's distancing language. Who is somebody else and what are the actions? The truth is that it is Kendra, and the actions were the harassing text messages that she was sending to her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend daily.
I think it was more of an escape. It more took me kind of out of real life in a sense, even though it was real life. So when I was really doing that and I wasn't myself, it removed me from my everyday life. just kept going.
So Kendra essentially admits that she was the one sending the text messages, and the rationale that she gives is that she basically got caught up in sending these messages. It spiraled. She felt like somebody else when she was sending them. It removed her from her daily life, and she was able to essentially put on a mask and be somebody else. And that just goes to show you how heinous somebody can truly be if they are putting on a mask and removing themselves from their daily life to harass their own daughter. Again, removing herself, distancing herself from the crime, distancing herself from the severity of her actions. It wasn't really me. I was wearing a mask when I was doing it. I was somebody else. I was not myself.
Laura knows she's petite, she knows she's small, she knows she's thin. So I might have kind of picked up on some of her insecurities. Her appearance, her hair, her looks, her, But honestly, the messages weren't really targeted at her insecurities.
At you? Like, were you sending these messages to yourself?
That very well, possibly, because I was way too thin. I was not eating. So you could put me in that anorexic category.
The other thing that I see here that is quite disturbing is we see that lip lick, and then we also see Kendra's eyes darting back and forth. Now, lip licking happens for a variety of reasons. Most commonly, it is when the lips are dried out, and a lot of the time it does have to do with managing our perception. Now, people will lick the lips to make them more moist, which is more aesthetically pleasing, obviously, than dried out lips. So we see Kendra do that lip lick there, and it can also come around thinking as well. And we see the eyes darting back and forth. That is so unsettling to me. Now, the producer here says to Kendra, were you sending those text messages to yourself? And Kendra grabs a hold of that. From my perspective, that was not a great question from the producer. The producer should absolutely just have let Kendra speak, because she essentially fed her an out. The producer says, were you just sending those messages to yourself? And Kendra goes, yes, that's what I was doing, right? Because again, this is softening the severity. Well, it wasn't really to my daughter. Those messages were directed at myself, and I wasn't picking up on my daughter's own insecurities. I was sending those messages to me, to myself. So Kendra says, yes, you could put me into that same category. I was quite thin. I'm a victim, and you should feel bad for me because I was suffering. I was not eating at the time. You can put me in that same category as anorexic. It's interesting because some of the text messages that she sent to her daughter were calling her daughter anorexic and poking at the insecurity around her daughter being quite thin. And then Kendra says, you could put me into that same category as well. Putting herself in the same category as her daughter. Kendra is somebody that I would consider to be a psychopath. There is a lack of empathy for her actions. There is zero accountability. There is severity softening and distancing language. These are all red flags. These are red flags of a psychopath and someone who is an expert at manipulating. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What did you think about this documentary, and what did you think about Kendra Licari's body language and behavior? Now, if you haven't seen the documentary and you're not put off by spoilers, definitely go check it out. It is worth the watch. And remember, guys, if there's anybody else you want to see me break down in terms of body language and behavior, feel free to write it in the comments below. I am always open to suggestions. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one. Bye. Bye.